I received an anonymous email that said, "Check your son's car before dinner." I initially thought it was spam, but something urged me to look anyway. While my family was talking in the living room, I pretended to feel ill and went to the car to check. What I found inside horrified me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, while I was kneading dough for the pumpkin pie. My phone chimed, an unfamiliar sound at that hour, and I wiped flour from my hands before checking the screen. No sender name, no subject line, just 8 words that made my blood run cold. Check your son's trunk before dinner, today. I should have deleted it immediately. At 63 years old, I'd seen enough spam and scams to know better. But something about those words, their specificity, their urgency, lodged in my chest like a splinter. My name is Audrey Hayes, and I've lived in this farmhouse outside Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for 42 years. My husband Robert died 3 years ago from a heart attack, leaving me with this sprawling property, our memories, and our only child, David. At 35, David had exceeded every expectation we'd ever held. He was a quantitative analyst for a prestigious investment firm in Chicago, the kind of son who made a mother proud at church socials and family gatherings. I stared at that message for a full minute, watching the kitchen clock tick toward 7. The turkey still needed basting. The guest bedroom required fresh linens for David and his wife, Elaine. My daughter-in-law had specific preferences about thread count and pillow firmness, preferences she'd reminded me of 3 times in the past week. But I couldn't stop reading those 8 words. I tried calling David, straight to voicemail. I tried Elaine, the same. They were probably still asleep in their hotel room downtown. They'd driven in late last night from Chicago, choosing to stay at the Marriott rather than in the guest room I'd prepared. Elaine had claimed David needed proper rest before a stressful family day, though I'd never understood what was stressful about Thanksgiving dinner with your mother. I returned to my pie dough, trying to dismiss the message. Someone's idea of a prank, surely, or a wrong number. Yet my hands trembled as I crimped the crust. The morning progressed in a blur of preparation. I roasted vegetables, whipped potatoes, arranged the good china on the dining table. The house smelled like butter and sage, exactly as it should on Thanksgiving. But that message haunted every task. At 11 o'clock, David and Elaine arrived. "Mother!" David called out as he entered, his arms full of expensive wine bottles. He'd grown into a handsome man. Tall, lean, with Robert's dark eyes and my stubborn jaw. "Something smells incredible." Elaine followed, immaculate in a cream cashmere sweater and designer jeans, her auburn hair styled in waves that had probably required an hour of professional attention. "Audrey," she said, air kissing my cheek, "you've outdone yourself with the decorations." I hadn't decorated beyond a simple centerpiece, but I smiled and thanked her anyway. "How was the drive?" I asked. "Tedious," Elaine said, settling onto the sofa. "The interstate was packed with people who have no business operating vehicles." David shot her a look, brief, almost imperceptible, then turned to me with forced brightness. "Is there anything we can help with?" "Everything's nearly ready," I said. "Dinner at 2, as always." My son looked tired, more than tired, haunted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his jaw carried a tension I'd never seen before. When he thought I wasn't looking, his smile collapsed into something resembling despair. "David, honey, are you feeling well?" "Just work stress," he said quickly. Too quickly. "The market's been volatile." Elaine laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "David's being modest. He's up for a major promotion. Tell her, darling." "It's not confirmed," David muttered. "But it will be," Elaine insisted. "My husband is brilliant. Everyone knows it." I watched this exchange with growing unease. Something felt wrong. The way David avoided eye contact. The way Elaine's smile never reached her eyes. The way neither of them seemed to actually see each other. And that email, those 8 words. At 12:30, I excused myself to the bathroom. My heart hammered as I climbed the stairs, but instead of turning left toward the bathroom, I turned right, toward the window overlooking the driveway. David's Mercedes sat in the gravel lot beside the house, its black exterior gleaming in the November sun. The car he was so proud of, the symbol of his success. I needed to check the trunk. The thought was absurd, paranoid. What could possibly be in David's trunk that warranted an anonymous warning? But I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible waited in that car, something that would shatter the careful normalcy of this Thanksgiving. I descended the stairs quietly. Through the living room doorway, I could see David and Elaine sitting in rigid silence, both absorbed in their phones. The television played a football game neither was watching. "I need to grab something from my car," I announced. "Left my reading glasses." Neither looked up. Outside, the November air bit through my cardigan. I approached David's Mercedes, my pulse thrumming in my ears. The trunk was locked, of course. I had no key, no way to open it without— Wait. David had given me a spare key fob years ago, for emergencies. I'd tucked it in the kitchen drawer, meaning to return it and forgetting. I hurried back inside, moving as casually as I could manage. In the kitchen, I rifled through the junk drawer until my fingers closed around the small remote. "Mother?" David's voice from the doorway made me jump. "What are you looking for?" "Just a battery," I stammered. "For the kitchen timer." He studied me with an expression I couldn't read. "The timer seems to be working fine." "Yes, well, back up, just in case." He nodded slowly, then returned to the living room. My hands shook as I pocketed the key fob. This was ridiculous. I was acting like a woman unhinged, letting a spam email dictate my behavior. But I couldn't stop now. At 1:15, I feigned a headache. "I just need a moment of air," I told them. "Too much time over a hot stove." Elaine barely glanced up. "Don't be long. You said dinner at 2. I stepped outside again, this time with purpose. The gravel crunched under my shoes as I approached the Mercedes. Through the living room window, I could see David standing now, pacing, his phone pressed to his ear. I pressed the button on the key fob. The trunk released with a soft click. For a moment, I simply stood there, afraid to lift the lid. What was I expecting? What could possibly— I opened the trunk. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Wires, plastic containers, a digital display showing numbers. My mind tried to categorize these objects, to make them innocent, to find a reasonable explanation. Then the truth crashed over me like ice water. A bomb. There was a bomb in my son's trunk. My vision tunneled. The world tilted. I gripped the car for support, forcing myself to breathe, to think, to not scream. The device was crude but unmistakable, the kind of thing I'd seen in news reports and crime documentaries. Wires connected to what looked like commercial-grade explosives, enough to obliterate the car and anything within a 100-foot radius. The digital display read 0:47 to 23, 47 minutes and counting down, 47 minutes until Thanksgiving dinner, 47 minutes until everyone in my house would be sitting at the table. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a bomb, I whispered. In my driveway. A bomb in my son's car. The operator's voice sharpened. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Are you in a safe location? I'm outside. My son and daughter-in-law are in the house. They don't know. I don't— My voice broke. It's counting down. 46 minutes. I'm dispatching police and the bomb squad immediately. What's your address? I gave it, my mouth operating on autopilot while my mind reeled. Ma'am, I need you to evacuate everyone from the house calmly. Do not tell them about the device. Do not let anyone approach the vehicle. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. Officers are 3 minutes away. Stay on the line. I turned toward the house, toward my son sitting in my living room, and a new horror dawned. David hadn't seemed surprised this morning, hadn't seemed curious about anything. He'd seemed resigned, defeated. The anonymous email had warned me to check the trunk before dinner. Someone had known the bomb was there. Someone had wanted me to find it. But who had put it there in the first place? I looked at my son through the window, at this man I'd raised, this brilliant professional who'd never given me a moment of trouble. I thought about his haunted eyes, his forced smiles, his wife's brittle cheerfulness, and I realized, with a certainty that made my knees weak, that my son was in terrible danger. Not from the bomb, from whoever had planted it. And I had 45 minutes to figure out who was trying to destroy my family. The police arrived in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I know because I counted every breath. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Daniels," a young woman said, approaching me at the edge of the driveway. Behind her, 3 more squad cars pulled up, silent but urgent. "You made the call about the explosive device?" "In the trunk," I said, pointing with a shaking hand. "My son's Mercedes. It's counting down. I checked my phone's timer. 43 minutes left." Officer Daniels spoke into her radio, calm and efficient. "Bomb squad ETA? 12 minutes, came the crackled response. "We need to evacuate the residence," she said to me. "How many people inside?" 2. "My son David and his wife Elaine. Anyone else expected?" "No, just us for Thanksgiving." She nodded. "I need you to go inside and bring them out calmly. Don't mention the device. Tell them there's a gas leak or—" The front door opened. David stood in the doorway, his face pale. "Mother, what's happening? Why are the police here?" Officer Daniels stepped forward. "Sir, I need you and anyone else inside to exit the house immediately. There's a potential safety hazard." "What kind of hazard?" Elaine appeared beside David, her eyes sharp and suspicious. "Audrey, what did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I said. "Please, both of you, just come away from the house." David's gaze moved from me to the police cars to his Mercedes, where 2 officers now stood at a careful distance. I watched the realization dawn on his face, the color draining, the subtle sway as if he might faint. "Oh, God," he whispered. No, this can't be happening." "Sir, I need you to step away from the residence," Officer Daniels said firmly. But David wasn't moving. He stared at his car with an expression of pure horror, and I knew that he'd had no idea the bomb was there. "David," I said, my voice cutting through his shock. "Come here! Now!" He stumbled forward, Elaine following with increasing alarm. "David, what is going on? Why do you look like—" "There's an explosive device in the vehicle," Officer Daniels said, abandoning pretense. "We need everyone at least 200 feet from the house. Now!" Elaine's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God! Oh my God, someone's trying to kill us." "We don't know that yet, ma'am," Officer Daniels said. "Please come with me." She herded us toward the road, where neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the police presence. Mrs. Patterson from the adjacent farm stood in her yard, phone raised, undoubtedly filming. The Kowalskis had emerged from their property a quarter-mile down, binoculars in hand. Perfect. By nightfall, this would be all over town. A black van arrived, the bomb squad. Men in heavy protective gear began their careful approach to David's car. I watched them, my mind racing through possibilities, through questions that had no good answers. "Mother," David's voice was barely audible. "How did you know?" I turned to face my son. Elaine stood beside him, her earlier composure cracking into something raw and frightened. "I got an email this morning," I said. "Anonymous. It told me to check your trunk before dinner." David's eyes widened. "Someone sent you? They wanted you to find it?" "Who would do this?" Elaine demanded. "Who would put a bomb in our car?" "I don't know," David said, but his tone suggested otherwise. He knew something. I could see it in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. Officer Daniels approached with a notepad. "I need to ask some questions. Mr. Hayes, when did you last access your trunk?" "Yesterday," David said. "Yesterday afternoon. I put our luggage in before we left Chicago." "And you noticed nothing unusual?" "Nothing." "Where was the vehicle between yesterday afternoon and this morning?" "The Marriott parking garage downtown. Level 3. Officer Daniels made notes. "Security cameras?" "Should be. We'll need to review that footage." She turned to me. "Mrs. Hayes, I'll need to see that email." I pulled out my phone, hands still trembling, and showed her the message. She photographed the screen with her own device. "No sender information," she observed. "Sent through an encrypted relay. We'll trace it, but these things are designed to be untraceable." She paused. "Why do you think someone wanted you specifically to find the device?" The question hung in the cold November air. Why me? Why not call the police directly? Why not warn David? "I don't know," I said. But even as I spoke, Pieces began assembling in my mind, fragments of observation from the past months. David's increasing stress, phone calls he'd take in other rooms, the way Elaine watched him constantly, as if afraid he might disappear, the promotion she'd mentioned so forcefully. "Mr. Hayes," Officer Daniels said, "is there anyone who might want to harm you? Threats at work? Disputes? Enemies?" David laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "Enemies. In quantitative finance, everyone's an enemy." "David," Elaine hissed, "don't say that. Don't say anything without a lawyer." "A lawyer?" I stared at her. "Why would he need a lawyer? He's the victim here." Elaine's expression hardened. "Is he? Someone plants a bomb in his car and the police show up asking if he has enemies. They're going to try to blame him." "Ma'am, we're not blaming anyone," Officer Daniels said calmly. "We're trying to understand the situation." "The situation," Elaine said, her voice rising, "is that someone tried to murder us. Maybe you should focus on finding that person instead of interrogating my husband." A shout came from near the house. One of the bomb squad technicians was waving. Officer Daniels excused herself and jogged over. I watched them confer, saw the technician point at something in the trunk, saw Officer Daniels' expression shift. She returned looking troubled. "Mr. Hayes, the device has been disabled. However, there's something else you should know. There were fingerprints on the wiring, fresh prints." David went very still. "And? We'll need to take your prints for elimination purposes. And Mrs. Hayes's, since she opened the trunk." "Of course," I said. "Whatever you need." But David didn't respond. He stared at Officer Daniels as if she'd pronounced a death sentence. "David?" I touched his arm. "What's wrong?" "They're going to be mine," he whispered. "The prints. They're going to be mine." "That's impossible," I said. "You didn't build a bomb." "No, but I—" He stopped, glanced at Elaine, then looked away. "I need to make a call." "Sir, I'd prefer if you stayed here," Officer Daniels said. "Am I under arrest?" "No, but—" "Then I can make a phone call." He walked away, phone to his ear, leaving Elaine and me standing in uncomfortable silence. "He didn't do this," I said to Elaine. "You know he didn't." Elaine's laugh was bitter. "Do I? Do you? How well do we really know anyone, Audrey?" The comment struck me cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your son has been acting strange for months. Secretive, paranoid. Coming home at odd hours, taking calls he won't explain. I'm saying that maybe, just maybe, David is involved in something we don't understand. That's absurd. David is what? Perfect? Your golden boy?" Elaine's composure finally shattered. "He's drowning, Audrey. He's been drowning, and you've been too busy playing proud mother to notice. I notice everything about my son. Do you? Do you know about the investigation at his firm? The missing money? The accounts that don't balance? The world tilted. What investigation?" Elaine's eyes glittered with something between triumph and despair. "The SEC has been auditing his department for 3 months. They think someone's been manipulating trades, skimming millions. And David—" She stopped, pressed her lips together. "David what?" "Nothing. Forget I said anything." But I couldn't forget. I grabbed her arm. "Tell me." She pulled away. "Ask your son, Audrey. Ask him why he's really stressed. Ask him why we're really in Cedar Rapids for Thanksgiving instead of at my parents' estate in Connecticut like we planned. Ask him why he insisted on driving here yesterday instead of flying." David returned before I could respond, his face ashen. "We need to go," he said. "Now." "Sir, we still need your statement," Officer Daniels said, "and you'll get it." "But right now, I need to get my mother and my wife somewhere safe." "Safe from what?" I demanded. "David, what's happening?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw my son as he truly was. Not the successful analyst, not the golden boy. I saw a man terrified and desperate and trapped. "I'm being framed, Mom," he said quietly. "Someone is setting me up for something I didn't do, and that bomb? That was just the beginning." A black SUV pulled up to the scene, unmarked but official. 2 men in suits emerged, showing badges to Officer Daniels. Federal agents. One of them approached us directly. "David Hayes?" "Yes." "Special Agent Oliver, FBI." I need you to come with us. On what grounds? Elaine demanded. We have questions regarding financial irregularities at Whitmore Investment Group. Specifically, transactions linked to accounts under Mr. Hayes's management. I want my lawyer, David said. That's your right, but we can do this easy or hard, Mr. Hayes. I stepped between the agent and my son. He's not going anywhere until you explain what he's being accused of. Agent Oliver studied me with cool appraisal. Ma'am, I understand this is your son, but you need to step aside. This is my property, I said, and you need a warrant to remove him. We have one. Oliver produced a document. Signed this morning. We've been authorized to bring Mr. Hayes in for questioning regarding securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. If he cooperates, this goes easier for everyone. David's hand found mine. Mom, it's okay. I'll go. I'll answer their questions. I have nothing to hide. Then why does Elaine say you're being investigated? Why did someone put a bomb in your car? Agent Oliver's expression shifted slightly. What bomb? Officer Daniels stepped forward. We disabled an explosive device in Mr. Hayes's vehicle approximately 20 minutes ago. You didn't know? The two federal agents exchanged glances. No, Oliver said slowly. We didn't know. That changes things. Changes them how? I asked. But Oliver was already on his phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. The other agent moved closer to David, positioned as if to protect rather than arrest. Mrs. Hayes, Officer Daniels said, touching my elbow, I think you should come with me. There's something you need to see. She led me toward David's Mercedes, where the bomb squad had laid out the disabled device on a tarp. The components looked almost harmless now, separated and neutralized. Do you see this? She pointed to a small rectangular object attached to the wiring. That's a phone-triggered detonator. Someone could have set this off remotely at any time. But they didn't. They let it count down instead. I don't understand, I said. Whoever planted this bomb might not have cared whether it killed anyone, Mrs. Hayes, but they definitely wanted it to be found. They wanted exactly what's happening right now. Police involvement, federal attention, chaos. But why? She met my eyes. That's what we need to figure out. Because someone went to a lot of trouble to make your son look guilty of something. And I'm starting to think the bomb was just insurance. Insurance for what? To make sure he couldn't run. They took David to the Cedar Rapids FBI field office. Elaine insisted on riding with him, leaving me alone with Officer Daniels and a house full of ruined Thanksgiving dinner. Mrs. Hayes, Daniels said gently, you should come to the station too. Give a formal statement. I need to make a call first, I said. I went inside the house, my home that suddenly felt violated and strange, and pulled out the business card I kept in my address book. Kevin Holland had been Robert's attorney for 30 years, handling everything from property disputes to my husband's will. He was 70 now, supposedly retired, but he'd told me at Robert's funeral to call if I ever needed anything. I needed something now. He answered on the second ring. Audrey? Is everything all right? No, Kevin, nothing is all right. My son has been arrested. Arrested or detained? They said questioning, but FBI agents took him. There was a bomb in his car, and they're saying he's involved in securities fraud. A pause. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. I did. The email, the bomb, the federal agents, Elaine's revelation about the SEC investigation. When I finished, Kevin was silent for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Kevin? I'm thinking, he said. This is complicated, Audrey. If the FBI has a warrant, they've been building a case for months. But the bomb changes everything. That suggests someone else is involved. Someone who wants David neutralized. Neutralized? Silenced. Discredited. Or dead. He paused. I'm coming to Cedar Rapids. Don't talk to anyone. Police, FBI, reporters. Until I arrive. And Audrey? Whatever David tells them, remember that federal investigators are very good at making innocent people sound guilty. He hung up. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the debris of a holiday that would never happen, and tried to understand how my life had become a crime scene. My phone buzzed. Another email. Same anonymous sender. Your son didn't steal the money, but he knows who did. My hands shook as I screenshot the message. This person, Whoever they were knew everything. The investigation, the bomb, the truth. I forwarded it to Kevin, then called Officer Daniels. "I need to show you something," I said. The Cedar Rapids FBI field office was a nondescript building downtown, gray and institutional. Officer Daniels had driven me, and now we sat in a conference room with Agent Oliver and his partner, Agent Grant. "Mrs. Hayes," Oliver said, "we appreciate your cooperation. I know this is difficult." "What I know," I said, keeping my voice steady, "is that my son is innocent, and I have proof someone else is orchestrating this." I showed them the second email. Oliver examined my phone, his expression unreadable. This could be from anyone. Someone trying to mislead the investigation. Or someone trying to help, I said. The first email saved our lives. Without it, that bomb would have detonated during dinner. "Assuming the timer was real," Agent Grant said. "Bombs are sometimes props, scare tactics. The bomb squad didn't treat it like a prop," Officer Daniels interjected. Oliver leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Hayes, what do you know about your son's work? He's a quantitative analyst. He uses mathematical models to predict market trends. Did he ever discuss his clients with you?" "No. He said it was confidential." "Did he ever mention unusual transactions? Large sums moving through accounts?" "Never." Oliver exchanged glances with Kim. "What about his lifestyle? Any sudden wealth? Expensive purchases?" I thought about David's Mercedes, his designer suits, the Marriott instead of my guest room. "He's always been successful. He earns a good salary." "A very good salary," Oliver said, "but not good enough to explain the offshore accounts in his name containing $3 million. The room spun. "That's impossible." "It's documented, Mrs. Hayes. Bank records, wire transfers, all traceable to your son's access codes and digital signatures." "Then the signatures are forged," I said. "David wouldn't what? Steal? People steal, Mrs. Hayes. Even good people. Especially when they're desperate." "Desperate for what? He has everything." Agent Grant spoke for the first time, her voice softer than Oliver's. "Medical bills, his wife's treatment. Did you know about that?" I stared at her. "What treatment?" "Elaine Hayes has been receiving experimental cancer therapy for 18 months. The insurance doesn't cover it. Cost so far, $2.7 million. The air left my lungs. Cancer. Elaine. 18 months of treatment, and David had never said a word. "I didn't know," I whispered. "Few people did," Kim said. "They kept it very private. But that kind of expense creates motive, Mrs. Hayes. A man trying to save his wife might make desperate choices. David would never steal. Even to save Elaine's life." I wanted to say no. Wanted to insist my son would find another way. But I thought about David's haunted eyes, his forced smiles, the weight he'd been carrying alone. "He would have told me," I said. "I would have helped." "I have this property. I could have..." "Could have what?" Oliver interrupted. "Sold your farm? Mortgaged your home? And how would that look to Elaine's family? Her father is Preston Walker, CEO of Walker Technologies. Billionaire. Your son is married to money, Mrs. Hayes, but that doesn't mean he can access it. Walker never approved of David. Never thought he was good enough for his daughter. So David stole to prove he could provide for her? That's what the evidence suggests." "Then your evidence is wrong." Oliver slid a folder across the table. "These are transaction records. Dates, amounts, account numbers. Your son had the access. He had the motive. And now we have the evidence." I opened the folder, scanning pages of financial data I barely understood. Numbers and codes and timestamps. But one detail caught my attention. "This transaction," I pointed. October 15th. $300,000 moved from a client account to an offshore account in David's name. "Correct," Oliver said. "David was in the hospital on October 15th. He called me from the emergency room. Kidney stones. He was admitted overnight." Oliver's expression flickered. "He could have executed the transfer remotely. From a hospital bed, while medicated? Check his medical records. Check the hospital's visitor logs. I was there until midnight." Agent Grant made a note. Oliver's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Hayes, even if your son didn't personally execute every transaction, he could have set up automated transfers, scheduled them in advance. Or someone else used his credentials, I said. Someone who knew about Elaine's illness. Someone who knew David would look guilty. Who? Oliver challenged. Who would have that kind of access and motive? The door opened. A woman in a FBI windbreaker entered and whispered something to Oliver. His face went pale. "Excuse me," he said, standing abruptly. Both agents left the room. Officer Daniels leaned toward me. "That was good, the hospital detail. You're making them doubt." "I'm not trying to create doubt," I said. "I'm trying to find the truth." Through the conference room window, I could see Oliver and Kim in heated discussion with the newcomer. Their body language suggested an argument. Kim kept gesturing toward our room. Oliver shook his head firmly. They returned 5 minutes later, Oliver's expression grim. "Mrs. Hayes, we have a problem. We've been monitoring your son's phone as part of the investigation. 20 minutes ago, he received a text message." He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a message from an unknown number. "Confess to everything or your mother is next." My blood turned to ice. "Next for what?" "We don't know," Agent Grant said. "But given the bomb in his car, we have to take the threat seriously." "You think someone will try to hurt me?" "We think someone wants your son to take the fall for financial crimes he may or may not have committed, and they're willing to threaten his family to ensure his compliance." Oliver closed the laptop. "We're placing you in protective custody. Officer Daniels will escort you to a safe location." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Not until I see my son." "Mrs. Hayes, I have a right to see him, now." Oliver studied me for a long moment, then nodded. 5 minutes. Supervised. They led me to a small interrogation room. David sat at a metal table, his hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee he hadn't touched. When he saw me, his composure cracked. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're caught up in this." I sat across from him, acutely aware of Agent Grant standing in the corner. "Tell me the truth. All of it." David's laugh was hollow. "The truth is, I'm ruined. Even if I prove my innocence, my career is over. My marriage is probably over. And now someone's threatening you because—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Because I asked too many questions." "Questions about what?" He glanced at Agent Grant, then back to me. "About discrepancies in the accounts I managed. About trades that didn't make sense. About money disappearing in ways that violated every algorithm I'd built." "You discovered the theft," I said. "I discovered something worse than theft, Mom. I discovered a pattern. Money moving through dozens of accounts, always in amounts just below the federal reporting threshold. Always timed to coincide with market volatility. Always—" He stopped himself. "Always what?" "Always connected to Walker Technologies." The name hit me like a punch. "Elaine's father?" David nodded miserably. "I think Preston Walker has been using my access to launder money through Whitmore Investment Group. And when I started asking questions, when I started building documentation," he gestured helplessly, "someone decided to frame me instead." "Preston Walker is one of the wealthiest men in America," Agent Grant said from her corner. "You're accusing him of money laundering?" "I'm not accusing anyone," David said. "I'm stating what the data shows. But I can't prove it because all my research files were deleted from the company servers last week. Every backup, every email, every model I'd built. Gone." "Conveniently?" Agent Grant said. "Suspiciously," I corrected. "Agent Grant, if my son was actually guilty, why would he delete evidence that could help his defense? Why not leave the files showing the real pattern?" She had no answer. David reached across the table, taking my hand. "Mom, I need you to do something for me. Something important. Anything." I had a backup. Of everything. A physical backup on an external drive. I hid it somewhere I knew it would be safe. He squeezed my hand. "Somewhere only you could find it." "Where?" "In the place where I learned that honesty matters more than success. Where you taught me that integrity isn't negotiable." I stared at my son, parsing his words. The place where he learned about honesty and integrity. Where I taught him. The church. Our family church in Cedar Rapids. Where I'd taken David every Sunday as a child. Where I'd taught his Sunday school class. Where, 25 years ago, I'd been the choir director. "I understand," I said. Agent Grant can't know, David whispered. If Walker has people in the FBI, if this goes deeper than we know, that's enough, Mr. Hayes, Agent Grant said, stepping forward. Time's up. As they led me from the room, David called out, Mom, remember what Dad used to say? The truth always finds a way home. In the hallway, Officer Daniels waited. Are you all right? I need to go to a church, I said. Now? Now. Agent Oliver appeared, blocking our path. Mrs. Hayes, I can't allow that. You're under protective custody. That means you stay where we can monitor you. Am I under arrest? No, but... Then you can't hold me. I stepped around him. Officer Daniels, are you going to arrest me? Daniels looked between me and Oliver, clearly torn. No, ma'am, but I strongly advise... Noted, I said, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, Oliver called out, If you interfere with this investigation, Mrs. Hayes, I will arrest you for obstruction of justice. I turned. And if you let whoever planted that bomb go free because you're too focused on my son, Agent Oliver, a lot more people are going to die, including me. So, which scenario worries you more? I didn't wait for his answer. Officer Daniels caught up with me in the parking lot. I can't let you go alone. If there's really a threat, then come with me, I said. But we go now, before Oliver decides to make good on his threat. We climbed into her patrol car. As she started the engine, my phone buzzed. Another email. Same anonymous sender. You have 6 hours to find the evidence before Walker finds you. The church, choir loft, behind the hymnal cabinet. Tick-tock, Audrey. My blood ran cold. This person knew everything. Where David hid the backup, where I was going. Which meant they were watching. And they wanted me to succeed. Or they wanted me to lead them straight to the evidence they couldn't find. The Church of the Redeemer stood on Fifth Avenue, a modest brick building that had served Cedar Rapids for 90 years. I'd been coming here since David was in diapers, had taught Sunday school in the basement, had directed the choir for 15 years before Robert's death made singing feel impossible. Officer Daniels parked at the curb. Mrs. Hayes, I need to know what we're looking for. Evidence, I said. Evidence that will prove my son's innocence. Hidden in a church? Hidden where only I would think to look. The front door was unlocked. It always was during daylight hours. Pastor Williams's small rebellion against a world that locked everything. Inside, the sanctuary was empty and dim. Afternoon light filtering through stained glass windows. The choir loft is upstairs, I said, pointing to the narrow staircase behind the altar. We climbed, our footsteps echoing in the silence. The loft overlooked the sanctuary, housing the organ and rows of chairs where the choir once sat. Now it was mostly storage. Old hymnals, sheet music, retired vestments. Behind the hymnal cabinet, I murmured, remembering the anonymous email's instructions. The cabinet was an old wooden piece, heavy and ornate, donated by the founding families. I'd organized it myself years ago, knew every shelf and compartment. Officer Daniels helped me pull it away from the wall. Behind it, tucked into a gap between the cabinet and the wall, was a small fireproof box. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was an external hard drive, a stack of USB drives, and a handwritten note in David's precise script. Mom, if you're reading this, things have gone very wrong. This drive contains 18 months of research, transaction records, shell company documentation, communication logs. Everything points to Preston Walker using Whitmore Investment Group to launder money from illegal arms sales. I found the pattern by accident. I reported it to my supervisor 3 months ago. 2 weeks later, my supervisor died in a car accident. I've been collecting evidence ever since, but I knew they'd eventually come for me. The offshore accounts in my name? Walker's people set them up. The deleted files at work? Walker has someone inside Whitmore. I don't know who to trust anymore. But I trust you. Get this to the authorities. Someone clean. Someone outside Walker's reach. And Mom, tell Elaine I'm sorry. I thought I could protect her by keeping quiet. I was wrong. David. I read it twice. My vision blurring. My son had discovered a billionaire's criminal enterprise and tried to do the right thing. And it had nearly gotten him killed. Mrs. Hayes, Officer Daniels said quietly. This is explosive. If what he's saying is true, it's true, I said. My son doesn't lie. Then we need to get this to the FBI immediately. No. I clutched the box. David said Walker has people inside law enforcement. We can't trust anyone. You trust me? I looked at her. This young officer who'd been professional and kind, who'd driven me here despite Oliver's objections. I don't know you well enough to answer that. She nodded. Fair. But I know someone. Federal prosecutor, works out of Des Moines. She's been trying to build a case against Preston Walker for years. Political corruption, bribery, but she could never get enough evidence. This, she gestured to the box. This might be what she needs. How do you know we can trust her? Because Walker's lawyers got her husband disbarred 3 years ago on fabricated ethics charges. She has every reason to want him destroyed. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello? Audrey Hayes? A woman's voice, cultured and cold. This is Elaine. I'm using a burner phone. Don't speak. Just listen. I remained silent, holding Officer Daniels's gaze. You found the evidence, Elaine said. Good. Now you need to destroy it. My breath caught. What? Destroy it. Delete everything. Throw the drives in a river. Whatever it takes. Do it now. Elaine, that evidence can save David. That evidence will get David killed. Her composure shattered. You don't understand what you're dealing with. My father doesn't just have connections. He owns people. Judges, prosecutors, FBI agents. If you try to expose him, he'll eliminate everyone who knows, starting with David, then you, then me. Your father tried to blow up his own daughter? A bitter laugh. My father doesn't know about the cancer, Audrey. Doesn't know I'm dying. I've kept it completely outside his world. Private clinics, direct payments, nothing tied to his companies or insurance networks, because if he knew, he'd use it. Control me through my medical care. He controls everything. He always has. Then help us stop him. There is no stopping him. There's only survival, and survival means keeping quiet, taking the deal the FBI offers David and living with it. David is innocent. Innocence doesn't matter. Elaine's voice broke. Truth doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what Preston Walker wants, and he wants this buried. So bury it, Audrey. Save your son's life while you still can. The line went dead. Officer Daniels watched me carefully. What did she say? She wants me to destroy the evidence. I stared at the box in my hands. She says Walker will kill anyone who tries to expose him. She's probably right, Daniels said. But destroying evidence won't save David. It'll just guarantee his conviction. Without this, he has no defense. My phone buzzed. Another email from my anonymous helper. Elaine is trying to protect you, but she's wrong. Walker won't let David live either way. He knows too much. Your only chance is to expose everything before Walker makes his next move. You have 4 hours. 4 hours until what? I whispered. Officer Daniels' radio crackled. All units, be advised. Federal warrant issued for Audrey Hayes. Obstruction of justice. Considered armed and dangerous. Approach with caution. I had never even held a gun in my life. Armed and dangerous was nothing more than a convenient lie designed to turn a frightened 63-year-old woman into a supposed threat. We stared at each other. You're not armed, Daniels said slowly. I've never even held a gun. Then Oliver is manufacturing charges, trying to bring you in before you can use that evidence. She made a decision. Give me your phone. Why? Because they're tracking it. That's how they always know where you are. I handed it over. She removed the battery, then pulled out her own phone and made a call. Wendy, it's Caitlin Daniels. I need a favor. Big one. She paused. I'm with someone who has evidence in a federal case. Real evidence, not manufactured. But the wrong people are trying to bury it, and I need to get it to someone clean. Another pause. Prosecutor Amanda Richardson in Des Moines. Can you set up a meeting? Immediate. Off the books. She listened, nodded. 1 hour. Got it. Thanks, Wendy. She hung up and looked at me. My sister's a paralegal. She can arrange a meeting with Richardson in 1 hour at a neutral location. But we need to move now. and we can't take my patrol car. They'll track it. How do we get there? A voice from the sanctuary below answered, You could take my car. We spun toward the stairs. Pastor Williams stood at the bottom, looking up at us with concern. He was 70, gray-haired, with kind eyes that had witnessed countless confessions. Pastor, I said, how long have you been there? Long enough to know you're in trouble, Audrey. Long enough to know you're trying to do the right thing. He climbed the stairs slowly. I heard about the incident at your farm on the news. Bomb squad, FBI. Now you're wanted for obstruction of justice? It's complicated, I said. The truth usually is. He reached into his pocket and pulled out car keys. Take my Buick. It's old, but it runs. No GPS, no tracking. Just an old man's car that no one will notice. Pastor, you could get in trouble. I've been in trouble before, he said gently. Back in the 60s, hiding civil rights workers from violent mobs. In the 80s, sheltering refugees. The Lord doesn't call us to safety, Audrey. He calls us to righteousness. He pressed the keys into my hand. Go. Do what needs doing. I hugged him. This man who'd baptized my son, who'd buried my husband, who'd kept this church's doors unlocked even when the world insisted on locks. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me. Just promise you'll come back and tell me the whole story when it's over. Officer Daniels and I descended the stairs quickly. The pastor's Buick was parked behind the church, a boat of a car from 1997, powder blue and rust-spotted. I'm driving, Daniels said. You navigate. We pulled onto Fifth Avenue just as two FBI SUVs turned onto the street from the opposite direction. They didn't see us, but I watched them surround the church in my side mirror. They'll question Pastor Williams, I said. He'll tell them nothing, Daniels assured me. Men like him have been resisting authority for righteous causes their whole lives. He'll tie them in knots with Bible verses and polite confusion. We drove in silence for several minutes, taking back roads toward the highway. My mind raced through everything I'd learned. Preston Walker, arms sales, money laundering, a murdered supervisor, my son, caught in the middle trying to do the right thing, and Elaine, dying of cancer, married to a monster's daughter, still trying to protect David even as she asked me to destroy his only hope. Officer Daniels, I said. Call me Caitlin. Caitlin, why are you helping me? You're risking your career, possibly your freedom. She was quiet for a moment. My brother was a whistleblower, exposed corruption in a defense contractor. They buried him, not literally, but professionally. Blacklisted him. He couldn't find work anywhere. Died of an overdose 2 years later. Her hands tightened on the wheel. The people he exposed are still rich and free. So when I see someone trying to do the right thing and getting crushed for it, I remember my brother. And I choose differently. We reached the highway. Des Moines was 90 minutes away. My borrowed phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Hayes. The voice was male, deep, controlled. My name is Preston Walker. Everything in me went cold. I believe you have something that belongs to me, Walker continued. Information gathered illegally by my son-in-law. I'd like it back. It belongs to the authorities, I said. The authorities work for me, Mrs. Hayes. Haven't you realized that yet? Agent Oliver? He's been on my payroll for 3 years. Everything David has told the FBI, I know within the hour. Every move you make, I track. I even knew about the backup drives. I just needed someone to lead me to them. His voice hardened. And you did exactly that. You've been using me? I've been managing a situation. David made a very poor choice, investigating matters that don't concern him. Now he's facing consequences. But you're a mother protecting her son. I respect that. So I'm going to make you an offer. I'm not interested in David's medical care, Elaine's medical care. Both can continue, all expenses paid, at the finest facilities in the world. David pleads guilty to reduced charges, serves 5 years in a minimum security facility. When he's released, there's a job waiting for him, away from finance, away from anything sensitive. You keep your farm. Everyone lives. All you have to do is destroy that evidence and convince David to take the deal. And if I refuse? Then I activate Plan B. David is found dead in his cell. Suicide, very tragic. Elaine's medical coverage is mysteriously canceled. You suffer a home invasion gone wrong. 3 unfortunate deaths, all explainable, none traceable to me." He paused. "I don't want that outcome, Mrs. Hayes. I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman cleaning up a mess. Choose wisely." The line went dead. Caitlin had heard every word on the car's Bluetooth speaker. "He's bluffing." "He's not," I said. "Everything he said, the FBI on his payroll, tracking my movements, it all fits. He knew exactly where to find us. Then how did we get away from the church?" Good question. If Walker was tracking everything, why hadn't he intercepted us? Why call with an offer instead of just taking the evidence by force? Unless he didn't know exactly where we were. Unless the anonymous emailer had been helping me in ways Walker couldn't track. My borrowed phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "Walker is tracking Officer Daniel's personal phone. Ditch it now. 3 hours until the prosecutor meeting. Walker's people will be waiting. Alternative location. Interstate 80 rest stop, mile marker 142. Richardson will meet you there instead. Trust no technology. A friend." I showed Caitlin the message. "How does this person keep knowing everything?" she demanded. "I don't know, but they've been right about everything so far." I made a decision. "We need to throw away your phone. That's my only way to contact Richardson to confirm the meeting. It's also Walker's way to find us. We have to trust this anonymous helper. We have no other choice." Caitlin pulled over at a gas station. We removed her phone's battery and dropped it in a trash can. Then we got back in the Buick, now completely cut off from communication, carrying evidence that could destroy a billionaire, with 3 hours to reach a prosecutor we'd never met at a location we were trusting a mysterious stranger to have arranged. As we pulled back onto the highway, a black SUV emerged from the gas station parking lot behind us. It began to follow. "We've got company," Caitlin said, her voice tight. I looked back. The SUV was maintaining distance but clearly tracking us. "Can you lose them? In a 1997 Buick?" She accelerated anyway. "I can try." The SUV matched our speed. My borrowed phone buzzed one final time. "They're not trying to catch you. They're hurting you. Exit 92 is compromised. So is 103. Take exit 87 instead. Abandoned grain facility on north side. I'll meet you there. Come alone, Audrey. Not the officer. Just you. 1 hour. This is the only way. A friend." I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Meet a stranger alone at an abandoned facility. Trust someone I'd never seen. Risk everything on faith. But what choice did I have? Walker owned the FBI. He was tracking our movements. The prosecutor meeting might be a trap. My only ally was a ghost who communicated through untraceable emails. "Caitlin," I said slowly, "I need you to drop me off at exit 87. "Absolutely not. Listen to me. Someone's been helping us. Someone who knows things they shouldn't know. They want to meet. Alone. It's a trap, Audrey. Maybe. But staying on this road is definitely a trap. Walker's people are behind us, probably ahead of us too. We can't reach Richardson. We can't trust anyone official. Our only chance is this mysterious helper. Then I'm coming with you. They specifically said alone. If you come, they might not show, and we need whatever help they're offering." Caitlin's jaw set. "I don't like this. Neither do I. But I'm 63 years old, and I've lived a good life. My son hasn't. He deserves a chance. This evidence," I held up the fireproof box, "is his only hope. I have to try." Exit 87 appeared ahead. Caitlin signaled, exited, her hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The black SUV didn't follow. It continued on the highway. "See?" I said. "They weren't trying to catch us. They were making sure we stayed on the main road. Which means exit 87 is either safer or more dangerous," Caitlin muttered. We found the grain facility easily, a massive complex of silos and warehouses, abandoned for at least a decade, surrounded by empty fields. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across cracked pavement. "Last chance to change your mind," Caitlin said. "I can't." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you for everything. If I don't come back, you're coming back. If I don't, make sure that evidence reaches someone who can use it. Promise me." She promised. I stepped out of the Buick, clutching the fireproof box, and walked toward the largest warehouse. The door hung open, creaking in the wind. Behind me, I heard Caitlin drive away slowly, reluctantly, leaving me alone in the gathering darkness. I entered the warehouse. "Hello?" My voice echoed in the vast space. "I'm here. I came alone, as you asked." Footsteps. From the shadows, a figure emerged, and I recognized her immediately. It was Elaine. Elaine looked different in the dim light of the warehouse, smaller somehow, without her designer armor and perfect hair. She wore jeans and a dark jacket, her face bare of makeup, revealing the gray pallor of illness beneath. "You," I breathed. "You've been sending the emails." "Yes." She stepped closer, her movements careful, pained. "I'm sorry for the deception, but I couldn't risk my father discovering what I was doing. The phone call earlier, telling me to destroy the evidence, that call was made from the FBI office, with Agent Oliver listening. I had to convince my father I was on his side." Her voice hardened. "I've spent my entire life convincing Preston Walker I'm on his side." I clutched the fireproof box tighter. "Why are you helping us? You told David to keep quiet, to take the deal." I lied. Elaine's composure cracked. "I've been lying for 18 months, Audrey. Lying about the cancer, lying about knowing what my father is, lying about being his obedient daughter. But I'm done lying. I'm dying anyway. Might as well die telling the truth." The words hit me like a physical blow. "How long?" 3 months, maybe 4. The experimental treatment stopped working 6 weeks ago. My oncologist says there's nothing more they can do." She smiled bitterly. "Ironic, isn't it? My father has billions and he can't buy me more time. The one thing he can't control." "Does David know? About the prognosis?" "No. He thinks I'm improving. I let him think that because hope is all he has right now." She moved to a broken window, looking out at the darkening fields. "I met David 7 years ago at a charity gala. He was so different from the men my father approved of. Smart, yes, but also kind. Honest. He looked at me like I was a person, not an asset to be managed. Preston didn't approve. Preston never approves of anyone he can't control. But I married David anyway. It was my one act of rebellion." She turned back to me. "Then I got sick. And suddenly I needed my father's money for treatment, needed his insurance connections, his access to experimental trials. And Preston made it very clear. He'd pay for everything, but I'd owe him, forever. He used your illness to control you. He uses everything to control everyone. That's what he does." And when David discovered the money laundering, when he started asking questions, Preston saw an opportunity. Frame David for the crimes, discredit him, force him to take a plea deal. And I'd be so grateful for my father's help saving David from worse charges that I'd never question him again. I sat down on an old crate, my legs shaking. The bomb in David's car. Was that my father's insurance policy? He knew David had made a backup of the evidence. Knew David would hide it somewhere secure. The bomb was meant to do 2 things: terrorize David into revealing where he'd hidden the files, and give the FBI probable cause to search everywhere David had access to. Your farm, our Chicago apartment, his office, everywhere except the one place only I would know to look. I finished. The church. Exactly. Preston didn't know about David's Sunday school memories, about your choir director years. That was the one corner of our lives he hadn't mapped. Elaine pulled out a laptop from behind a stack of pallets. But I knew. David told me stories about the church, about you teaching him there. So when he told me he'd hidden the evidence somewhere, only Mom would understand, I knew where he meant. You sent me the first email, on Thanksgiving morning. I had to. Preston's people were going to detonate the bomb during dinner. Maximum casualties, maximum chaos. It would look like a domestic terrorism incident, and David would be the primary suspect. Dead suspects are very convenient. They can't defend themselves. She opened the laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I hacked into the detonator system and delayed the timer. Then I warned you. I knew you'd find it. Knew you'd call the police. Knew the bomb squad would disable it. You saved our lives. I saved my husband's life, the man I love, who I've dragged into hell because of my father. Her voice broke. David doesn't deserve any of this. He tried to do the right thing, and it's destroying him. I stood, moved to her side. Then help me save him. What's your plan? Elaine wiped her eyes, composing herself with visible effort. Preston thinks he has all the angles covered. FBI agents on his payroll, judges in his pocket, prosecutors who owe him favors. But there's one person he can't touch. Amanda Richardson, the federal prosecutor in Des Moines. Yes, Richardson's been trying to build a case against my father for years, but she's never had enough evidence. Circumstantial connections, suspicious transactions, but nothing concrete. Nothing that would survive my father's army of lawyers. She gestured to the fireproof box I was holding. Until now, David's research, 18 months of documentation, transaction records, shell company formations, communication intercepts. David didn't just stumble onto my father's money laundering operation, Audrey. He systematically mapped it. Every account, every transfer, every person involved. It's beautiful work. Meticulous. Unassailable. Then why haven't you given it to Richardson already? Because I needed to make sure she'd survive long enough to use it. Preston has killed people before. Made it look like accidents, suicides, natural causes. Richardson has been under surveillance for months. Any move she makes, my father knows about it. So I had to be careful. Had to wait for the right moment. Elaine turned the laptop screen toward me. And that moment is now. On the screen was a video feed. Multiple angles of what looked like a federal courtroom. What am I looking at? A grand jury proceeding that convenes tomorrow morning. Richardson's been investigating Preston Walker's political corruption for 3 years. She's been collecting testimonies from low-level operatives, building a foundation. Tomorrow, she presents her findings to the grand jury. It's not enough to indict my father. Not yet. But it's enough to get the investigation officially on the record. How does David's evidence help? Because once Richardson presents tomorrow and the investigation is official, my father can't kill her without drawing massive scrutiny. And once she's protected by an active grand jury investigation, she can accept new evidence without it being compromised. That's when we give her David's research. That's when everything changes. I stared at the video feed, understanding dawning. You've been coordinating all of this, the timing, the evidence, protecting Richardson. I've been planning this for 6 months, Elaine said quietly. Ever since I knew I was dying. I couldn't let my father destroy David. Couldn't let him win. Not this time. But the meeting Caitlin arranged was a trap. Oliver told my father about it immediately. There are agents waiting at the rest stop right now, ready to arrest you and confiscate the evidence. If you'd gone there, David's only defense would have disappeared. My phone, the borrowed one, buzzed. Elaine glanced at it, then at me. That's Oliver, isn't it? Wondering where you are. Trying to track you. Probably. She held out her hand. May I? I gave her the phone. She removed the battery, dropped it on the concrete floor, and crushed it under her heel. Then she pulled out 2 new phones from her jacket pocket. Burner phones. Completely clean. One for you, one for Officer Daniels. She handed me both. You'll need to coordinate with her. She's been circling the area, worried about you. Good woman. Loyal. How do you know? I know everything about everyone involved in this situation, Audrey. I've had to. My father taught me that information is power. He just never expected me to use that lesson against him. The warehouse door creaked open. We both tensed, but it was Caitlin, gun drawn, sweeping the space before focusing on us. Audrey, thank God. I heard. She stopped, seeing Elaine. Her weapon came up. Step away from her, Mrs. Hayes. Caitlin, it's all right. She's been helping us. She's Preston Walker's daughter. She told you to destroy the evidence. That was misdirection, Elaine said calmly. For my father's benefit. I'm on your side, Officer Daniels. Caitlin didn't lower her weapon. Prove it. Elaine turned the laptop toward her, showing the grand jury video feed. Then she pulled up another window. A detailed dossier on Agent Oliver, complete with bank records showing payments from Walker Technologies' shell companies. That's Oliver taking bribes, Elaine said. I have similar evidence on 3 other FBI agents. 2 federal judges, and a deputy attorney general, all in my father's pocket, all documented, all ready to be handed over to Richardson tomorrow. Caitlin lowered her gun slowly. You've been building a case inside the case. I've been building an insurance policy. My father thinks he's untouchable. I'm going to prove he's not. Elaine closed the laptop. But I need your help. Both of you. What do you need? I asked. Tomorrow morning, Richardson presents to the grand jury at 9 a.m. She'll finish around noon. At 12:30, she has a lunch meeting at a restaurant downtown Des Moines, Luca, on Court Avenue. Public place, lots of witnesses. That's when you give her David's evidence. She'll be surrounded by her security team, protected by the active investigation. My father won't be able to touch her. Why not just send the evidence electronically? Because electronic files can be hacked, corrupted, dismissed as fabricated. Physical evidence delivered in person by credible witnesses is harder to discredit. You and Officer Daniels will testify to the chain of custody. You'll explain how David hid it, why he feared for his life, what he discovered. Caitlin frowned. What about you? Your testimony would be even more powerful. Elaine's smile was sad. I'll be otherwise occupied. Doing what? Making sure my father doesn't interfere. She pulled out her own phone, sleek, expensive, and showed us a video file. This is my father, recorded 3 weeks ago in his home office. He's on a conference call with his arms dealers discussing shipments to sanctioned countries. He doesn't know I recorded it. Doesn't know I've been recording him for months. I watched the video, horrified. Preston Walker, speaking casually about weapons shipments, about bribing customs officials, about eliminating witnesses. He sounded like a man ordering office supplies, not discussing international crimes. When Richardson gets David's evidence tomorrow, Elaine continued, she'll have documentation of the financial side, the money laundering, the shell companies, the transactions. But she won't have the source crimes, the arms dealing itself. That's what this recording provides. The missing piece. You're going to give her this too? I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to walk into the FBI field office tomorrow morning, demand to see the director, and play this recording in front of witnesses. Then I'm going to formally testify against my father. No immunity, no deals. Just the truth. Caitlin and I stared at her. Elaine, I said carefully, your father will destroy you. My father can't destroy me. I'm already dying, remember? I'm the one person he has no leverage over anymore. She straightened, and despite her illness, she looked fierce, unbreakable. I've spent 33 years being Preston Walker's daughter, playing the perfect society princess, the obedient child. I let him control my education, my social circle, my marriage. I let him use my illness to manipulate me. But I won't let him destroy my husband. That's where I draw the line. He'll retaliate, Caitlin warned. Absolutely. He'll claim I'm mentally unstable from the cancer treatments. He'll say I'm bitter about my prognosis, lashing out. His lawyers will attack my credibility, my timeline, my motives. Elaine smiled. But here's the thing. I have 18 months of medical records proving I've been completely lucid. I have recordings of my doctors confirming my mental competency. And I have bank statements showing my father hasn't paid a single dollar for my treatment. David and I paid for everything ourselves, precisely so my father couldn't use financial leverage. We thought we were protecting my independence. Turns out we were building my credibility as a witness. I felt tears on my cheeks. You've been planning this for so long. I've been planning to save David for so long. This, she gestured to the evidence, the laptop, everything, is just the execution. She checked her watch. You need to leave, now. Drive to Des Moines tonight. Stay somewhere quiet, pay cash. Tomorrow, noon, Luca restaurant. Richardson will be there. So will her security team. You'll be safe. What about David? I asked. He's still in FBI custody. Oliver will be arrested tomorrow morning. The moment I walk into that field office and start talking, Internal Affairs will move on everyone I name. Oliver, the other dirty agents. All of them. David will be released immediately. Your father will know you betrayed him. Good. Elaine's voice was cold. I want him to know. I want him to understand that his daughter, The one person he thought he controlled completely, destroyed him. I want that to be the last thing he thinks about before they lock him away forever. Caitlin handed Elaine her card. If you need protection, I'll be fine. I have my own security team. People who are loyal to me, not my father. They'll make sure I survive long enough to testify. She paused. After that, it won't matter. The three of us stood in that abandoned warehouse, in the gathering darkness, understanding what Elaine was really saying. She had 3 months to live, maybe 4. She was spending her remaining time ensuring her father's destruction and her husband's freedom. Thank you, I said. Inadequate words for an immeasurable gift. Elaine hugged me, the first real embrace we'd ever shared. Take care of David when this is over. He's going to need his mother. He'll blame himself for not protecting me, for not seeing what I was planning. Tell him. Her voice caught. Tell him I love him. Tell him this was my choice. Tell him to live a good life after I'm gone. You can tell him yourself, I said. No, I can't see him again. If I do, I'll break. And I need to be strong for what's coming. She pulled away, wiping her eyes. Go, both of you. And Audrey, thank you for raising a man worth saving. Caitlin and I left the warehouse, carrying the evidence, carrying the weight of Elaine's sacrifice. As we drove away in the pastor's old Buick, I looked back once. Elaine stood in the warehouse doorway, backlit by the dying sun, watching us go. She raised one hand in farewell. I knew I'd never see her again. We drove through the night, stopping only for gas paid in cash. Caitlin navigated while I held the fireproof box on my lap, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. A Thanksgiving morning email from a dying woman. A bomb meant to frame my son. A billionaire's criminal empire, built on weapons and blood money. And a daughter's final act of love, burning down her father's world to save her husband. At 6 a.m., we pulled into a small motel outside Des Moines. We paid cash, registered under false names, and tried to sleep. I couldn't. I lay awake, watching dawn break through cheap curtains, knowing that somewhere in Cedar Rapids, Elaine was preparing for battle. At 8:30 a.m., Caitlin's burner phone rang. Unknown number. She answered, listened, then hung up with a grim expression. That was one of Elaine's security people. She walked into the FBI field office at 8:15. She's with the director now. Is she safe? For the moment. Caitlin checked her weapon, her movements automatic and professional. But Audrey, you need to prepare yourself. Once Elaine testifies, once she names names and plays those recordings, her father will know. And he will respond. She knows that. She's ready. Is she ready to die for this? Because that's what might happen. I thought about Elaine's gray pallor, her careful movements, her fierce determination. She's dying anyway. This way she dies meaning something, fighting for someone she loves. At 11:45 a.m., we parked 3 blocks from Luca Restaurant. Caitlin surveyed the area, noting exits and sightlines, while I clutched the fireproof box. There, Caitlin said, pointing. Black sedan. That's Richardson's security detail. We approached the restaurant. Inside, I could see a woman in her 50s sitting at a corner table reading documents. Amanda Richardson, the prosecutor who'd been fighting Preston Walker for years. My phone buzzed. Text from Elaine's security contact. She's done it. Testified for 3 hours. Named everyone. Played every recording. The field office is in chaos. Agents being arrested. Oliver in custody. David being released within the hour. Your turn now. Finish it. V. I showed Caitlin the message. Then let's finish it, she said. We walked into Luca Restaurant carrying evidence that would destroy a billionaire and free my son. Amanda Richardson looked up as we approached, her expression sharp and knowing. Mrs. Hayes, she said, standing. I've been expecting you. Please sit down. We have much to discuss. I placed the fireproof box on the table between us. Yes, I said. We do. Amanda Richardson didn't waste time on pleasantries. She opened the fireproof box, examined the contents with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent years chasing ghosts, and finally allowed herself a small, tight smile. This is extraordinary, she said, connecting one of the USB drives to her laptop. Transaction records, shell company formations, communication intercepts. Your son did exceptional work, Mrs. Hayes. He's a good man, I said, who tried to do the right thing, and nearly died for it. Richardson's expression hardened as she scrolled through files. Preston Walker has been a cancer on this country for 2 decades. Arms dealing, money laundering, political corruption. We've known it, suspected it, but could never prove it. He's too careful, too well connected. She looked up. Until now. Caitlin leaned forward. Elaine Walker testified this morning. Against her father. I know. I received a call from the FBI director at 10:15. He was. Richardson paused, choosing words carefully. Apoplectic. 3 of his agents arrested for corruption. 2 federal judges under investigation. A deputy attorney general has already resigned. Elaine Walker didn't just testify. She detonated a bomb inside the entire federal law enforcement apparatus. Will it stick? I asked. Walker has armies of lawyers. He has lawyers, yes. But lawyers can't argue with video recordings of their client discussing illegal arms sales. Can't explain away 18 months of documented financial crimes. And they certainly can't dismiss the testimony of his own daughter, who has no motive beyond justice. Richardson closed the laptop. Preston Walker will die in prison, Mrs. Hayes. I'll make certain of it. And David, your son will be released within the hour. All charges dropped. He'll likely receive protection from the Witness Security Program, given the scope of what he's exposed. But that will be his choice. Relief flooded through me, so powerful I had to grip the table for support. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank your daughter-in-law. She's the one who made this possible. Richardson's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry about her prognosis. Cancer is a cruel thing. She's dying to save the man she loves, I said. I can't imagine braver. Neither can I. Richardson stood, extending her hand. I'll need both of you to make formal statements. My office tomorrow morning. After that, you're free to return to Cedar Rapids. The FBI will want to interview you as well, but the clean agents, the ones who aren't on Walker's payroll, they'll treat you as witnesses, not suspects. We shook hands. As Caitlin and I turned to leave, Richardson called out, Mrs. Hayes, your son is lucky to have you. Not many mothers would have risked what you did. Not many sons deserve it, I replied. Mine does. David was waiting outside the FBI field office when we arrived. He looked exhausted, rumpled, but unharmed. When he saw me, he ran, actually ran, and pulled me into an embrace that nearly lifted me off my feet. Mom, he breathed. Mom, they told me what you did. The evidence, the prosecutor, everything. You could have been killed. But I wasn't, I said, holding my son tight. I'm fine. You're fine. That's what matters. He pulled back, searching my face. Where's Elaine? They said she testified, but she won't answer my calls. I need to see her, need to thank her. David. I took his hands. Sit down. We need to talk. We found a bench in a small park across from the FBI building. Caitlin gave us privacy, standing a discreet distance away. I told David everything. About Elaine's plan, her 6 months of preparation, the recordings she'd made, the evidence she'd compiled, and her prognosis. 3 months, David repeated, his voice hollow. She's known for 6 weeks that it's only 3 months, and she didn't tell me? She wanted you to have hope, I said gently. She wanted to use her remaining time to save you, not burden you with her grief. That's not her choice to make. I'm her husband. I deserve to know. He stopped, his composure fracturing. I deserve to say goodbye. Then say it. She's still here, still fighting. Go to her, David. She won't see me. Her security team has instructions to keep me away. She said, his voice broke. She said it's easier this way, cleaner, that seeing me would make her weak. I thought about Elaine's fierce determination, her careful control. She's trying to protect you from watching her die. I don't need protection. I need my wife. David stood abruptly, pacing. She recorded her father for months, testified against him, destroyed his entire empire, and she did it alone, without telling me, without letting me help, without... He pressed his palms against his eyes. I should have known, should have seen what she was doing. How could you? You were trying to survive, to protect her, to navigate an impossible situation. Elaine didn't want you to know because she needed you to act naturally. If Walker suspected you knew what she was planning, he would have killed you both. David was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. I failed her. You loved her. You married her despite her father's disapproval. You paid for her medical treatment yourself to keep her independent. You risked everything to expose Walker's crimes, even when it meant framing yourself as a criminal. David, you didn't fail anyone. Then why does it feel like I lost everything? Because you're grieving. And grief feels like failure. But it's not. It's just love with nowhere to go. He sat back down, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I held my son while he cried, the way I'd held him when he was small, and the world seemed impossible. Some things never change, no matter how old your children get. Eventually, Caitlin approached. David, there's someone here to see you. A black car had pulled up to the curb. The back door opened and Elaine emerged. She looked fragile in the afternoon light, leaning on her security guard's arm. But when she saw David, she straightened, finding strength from somewhere deep inside. David stood frozen, staring at his wife. Then he was moving, crossing the distance between them, gathering her into his arms with infinite gentleness. I couldn't hear what they said to each other. Didn't need to. Some conversations are too private, too sacred for outside ears. They stood there for a long time, holding each other, two people who'd fought impossible battles for love. Finally, Elaine pulled back, touched David's face, and returned to her car. Before the door closed, she looked at me. Our eyes met across the distance and she nodded once. A farewell, a thank you, an acknowledgement of what we'd both done to save the man we loved. Then she was gone. David returned to the bench, his face wet with tears, but somehow more peaceful. She made me promise not to watch her die, he said. Made me promise to remember her as she was, not as she'll become. She's going into hospice next week. Private facility. No visitors. Just her and the medical staff. He wiped his eyes. She said she's already said everything she needed to say. The rest is just waiting. That must have been incredibly hard to accept. It was impossible to accept. But she's right. She's always right. He managed a weak smile. She told me about you. About how you figured out the church, found the evidence, evaded Oliver's trap. She said you were magnificent. I was terrified. Magnificence and terror aren't mutually exclusive. He took my hand. Thank you, Mom. For believing in me. For fighting when I couldn't. That's what mothers do, I said simply. The next 3 months passed in a blur of testimony, depositions, and legal proceedings. Preston Walker was arrested, denied bail, and held in a federal detention facility. His lawyers mounted an aggressive defense, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the financial documentation, the testimony from Elaine and David, it created an unassailable case. Walker's trial began in February. I attended every day, sitting in the gallery beside David, watching a billionaire's empire collapse under the weight of truth. Elaine died on March 3rd, peacefully, in the hospice facility she'd chosen. She'd held on long enough to submit a video deposition for her father's trial, her final testimony given from a hospital bed with the same fierce clarity she'd always possessed. David scattered her ashes in Lake Michigan, the place they'd had their first date. I stood with him on the shore, holding his hand while he said his private goodbyes. She saved me, he said finally. In every way a person can be saved. And you loved her, I replied. In every way a person can be loved. That's not nothing, David. That's everything. Preston Walker was convicted on April 15th. 37 counts, including money laundering, arms trafficking, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. The judge sentenced him to 40 years in federal prison. He was 68 years old. He would die behind bars. David testified as a witness for the prosecution, his composure never wavering as he detailed the investigation he'd conducted, the patterns he'd discovered, the truth he'd risked everything to expose. The jury listened with rapt attention. The media called him a hero. He never called himself that. just a man who'd tried to do the right thing. On a warm Saturday in May, I stood in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd read that first anonymous email 6 months ago, kneading dough for a pie. Apple this time, not pumpkin. The season had changed. Everything had changed. David sat at my kitchen table, reading the newspaper. He'd left Chicago, left the world of high finance. Now he taught mathematics at the University of Iowa, an hour's drive from my farm. He'd bought a small house in Iowa City, filled it with Elaine's books and photographs, created a space that honored her memory without being consumed by it. "Mom," he said, looking up from the paper, "there's an article here about Elaine, about her testimony, her courage. They're calling her a hero too." "She was," I said. "Is. Will always be. They want to name a building after her, at the Cancer Research Center where she was treated. The Elaine Walker Memorial Research Wing. She'd hate that. The attention. The fuss." David smiled. "She'd absolutely hate it. But she'd accept it if it helped other people. That was always her way." I joined him at the table, wiping flour from my hands. "Are you happy, David? Not content? Not managing? Happy?" He considered the question seriously. "I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others. But I wake up in the morning with purpose. I teach students who actually want to learn. I'm not looking over my shoulder, not afraid someone's going to frame me or kill me. I'm free." He paused. "Elaine gave me that. Freedom. At the cost of her own life, she gave me freedom. Then live free," I said. "Live the life she fought for you to have. Love again, eventually. Build something new. She wouldn't want you frozen in grief." "I know. She told me as much, that last day." He folded the newspaper carefully. "She also told me to take care of you. Made me promise." I laughed. "I'm 63, not 93. I can take care of myself. Can you? Because Officer Daniels mentioned you've been having coffee with Pastor Williams every Thursday." Heat rose in my cheeks. "We're friends. We discuss theology." "Mm-hmm. Theology. Is that what they're calling it now?" "David Hayes, are you teasing your mother about her social life?" "I absolutely am." His grin was the first genuine one I'd seen in months. "About time you had one. Dad's been gone 3 years. You deserve companionship. Paul and I are just friends." "Sure. Friends who have coffee every Thursday, who go to concerts together, who take long walks discussing theology." David stood, kissed my forehead. "I'm happy for you, Mom. Truly. You've spent enough years taking care of everyone else. Time to let someone take care of you." After he left, I returned to my pie, thinking about the past 6 months, the terror and the triumph, the losses and the victories, the price of truth and the value of courage. Elaine had paid the ultimate price, but she'd won the ultimate victory. She'd destroyed a monster, saved her husband, and exposed corruption that had festered for decades. Her name would be remembered not as Preston Walker's daughter, but as the woman who'd brought him down. As for me, I'd learned that age wasn't weakness, that a 63-year-old woman could be just as fierce, just as brave, just as resourceful as anyone half her age. I'd learned that maternal love was a force more powerful than fear, more enduring than despair. I'd learned that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. My phone buzzed, a text from Paul Williams. "Chess game tonight? I promise to go easy on you." I smiled, typing back, "You'd better not. I play to win." Because that was the other thing I'd learned. Over these past months of mystery and danger and revelation, I'd learned that life wasn't over at 63. It was just beginning a new chapter, and I intended to make it a good one. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.